welcome to Sahara Reporters, sir.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, so we're going to begin with your book titled My Prescription for Nigeria, and you did list a couple of sectors where you want some kind of changes and prescriptions applied to. And I'm going to take you on term duration, where you said, and I quote, I therefore prescribe that elected officials should be allowed a single term of 6 years as against the 2 terms of 4 years each stipulated in the Constitution. With this prescription, we will spend less on elections and politicking and more time on governance, while electoral malpractices and violence caused by the desperation of elected officials to remain in office would be reduced. The question now is, why do you think that a 6-year term duration is better off than 4 years?
One of the major problems that we have in this country is that we find it difficult to dissociate politics from governance. The moment you get into office, politics should be relegated and governance should take the fore. So if we have a situation where we have a single term of 6 years, then we know that the person is not going to seek 2 terms. And most of the people that have first term, if you watch them properly, they don't want to step on toes. There are some things they are supposed to do, there are some decisions they are supposed to take. They wouldn't take those decisions in their first term because they're just waiting that if they get to the second term, they will be able to do those things because they wouldn't need to come back for a 3rd term. But once you know that you have just 1 term, we get your best from the beginning to the end. So that's why I said let's have a single term, 6 years, non-renewable.
What is your impression of the country's current leadership?
My impression of the leadership of the country at the moment, as a matter of fact, from independence till date, is that we have leaders who do not have the people in mind. Leadership is a call to service. When you are occupying a position of leadership, you are supposed to be doing so because you want to render service and not because you want to accumulate wealth. But over the years, what we have found is a situation where we have oftentimes accidental leaders, people who didn't quite plan to be there, and they just found themselves there by virtue of the contacts they have and the people they know, the people that push them forward. So we have accidental leaders, and we have leaders who over time have not been visionary. If we have a leader who is visionary, within 1 year, this country will change. Now, the problem that we have, leadership as well as followership that is also complacent. The followers hardly ask questions. We in Nigeria have been described as the happiest people at a time because instead of us to say, no, we've had enough of this, things should not happen like this, we fold our hands and begin to hail the same people that are impoverishing us.
Can you say that the President, Muhammadu Buhari, is an accidental leader?
Well, using the word accidental leader, he would not qualify to be an accidental leader because he did contest severally before he got in there. But I think the problem here is that of having a definitive scope of what you want to do for the people is important. And I always tell people that President Buhari missed his best chance. His best chance was during his inaugural speech when he was giving that speech and he said, I'm for nobody, I'm for everybody. And people were looking onto body language. Body language will not do the magic. What will do the magic is you coming to the table and specifying in clear terms the roles of everybody. Mr. President has a role to play. Members of the cabinet have a role to play. The lawmakers have a role to play. The law enforcement agents have a role to play. The citizens have a role to play. You must state it terms by term. This is our direction. In the next 4 years, this country should have gotten to this stage in terms of A, B, C, D, E, F. And these are the roles of everybody, you know. So, and that's why you see that oftentimes agents of government begin to look on to the president before they perform their responsibility. And last week I made a statement. I said it is an index of corruption for agents of government to wait for presidential directive before carrying out the statutory responsibility. And that's what you find if you don't have the president stating in clear terms the roles of everybody and giving them the leeway to go ahead and do their job. The fight against corruption by the Buhari administration was one that Nigerians had very high hopes of, but what we see at the moment is what a senator in the House said, that he fights corruption if it is members of the opposition with insecticide, and if it's member of the ruling party with deodorant. I think it was Senator Sani that said that. What we are saying is not the way corruption should be fought. If you have an accusation against you, if you cross from your party to the APC, you become a saint. No one talks about it. You don't fight corruption like that. You don't even wait for people to steal before you start running after them. If you want to fight corruption, you fight it proactively. You make it difficult for people to steal because everything will be in the open. I call it transparent transparency. You are giving out a contract, it will be in the open. Who is getting the contract? It will be in the open. How much are we generating each month? It should be in the open. How are we spending it to the latter? It should be in the open. When you make things in the open, and I also did recommend that we have the president and members of his cabinet face the press quarterly. That's what we're going to do when we get into office. Every 3 months, 4 times in a year, we will have a press conference. All the pressmen will come, members of the cabinet, they will all be there, and people will ask us questions. And someone said, okay, the IG did this. Mr. IG, please, can you answer that question? Transparent transparency. Nobody is covering you up. If you mess up, you swell up your hand, you pay for it, and you face the music. You are a member of the cabinet, you have allegation of corruption against you, you step aside. You don't stay in office and continue to, you step aside while the investigation goes on. And what is the penalty for looting public funds? I did recommend in that book, life imprisonment without an option of fine. That's important. I went ahead to say that the wife and the children of such people should be barred from holding public office in life in this country. Now, why did I say that? I said that because in this country, if you are elected into office, your wife, your children are the ones that will tell you, Daddy, this is our time. It's our time to loot. If you don't want to do it, they'll push you to do it. But if they know that daddy or mommy is going to spend life imprisonment and they will forfeit their chance of becoming something in this country, they will be the ones saying, Daddy, mommy, please, don't mess up, please, don't touch government money, do your job and leave the place. That is where I believe that we should be getting to in this country.
Now, over time, we have come to witness various candidates come talk about how themselves and their parties are going to revamp Nigeria and take it to better places. But Nigerians have been disappointed. My question now from this is that, do you feel yourself and the party NCP would have done anything different from what this administration is doing?
Let me answer the question this way. Since the independence of Nigeria, have you had any candidate from any party come up to state in clear terms the things I stated in that book? Not one. So they would just come up and say, oh, we're going to give you light. The question is how? Oh, there will be security. The question is how? You can't be talking of light when a nation of about 200 million people we are depending on Kanji Dam. We'll be talking of gas turbine. That's what we should be talking about. We have 24-hour supply within 6 months. It's feasible. If you're talking of security, you can't be talking of security without addressing the issue of the Fulani cattle rearer and the farmers. And how are you going to settle that? Ranch the cattle. 21st century cattle should not be moving everywhere. You ranch the cattle will come out better. They will have more flesh. They will make milk. The Fulani man will make more money. He becomes someone that stays in a place. They deserve a better life. You see, the Fulani man has lost weight because he keeps moving from one place to the other. It's an insult on that tribe. They deserve a better life. They should be in a place taking care of their cattle that is ranched. The cattle will look better. They will produce meat. They will make more money, and they will also deserve a better life. So when we're talking about specificity, that's what I'm saying. You don't just come and say, I'll make life better for you. How? We're talking about agriculture. I just came from a tour of the north, and you see an entire landscape, miles and kilometers, vacant, nothing is planted there. And you see shrubs just growing. We will invest massively in agriculture, bring in tractor, give it to the farmers free of charge. They begin to pay back little by little. We give them the manure, give them the fruit, the seedlings to plant. We will buy from them and do the selling for them. So these are definitive things. They are workable. They are not theories. And that's why I say it's totally different from what we have been seeing over time. Because once the leadership is altruistic, it wants a system to work, there has no vested interest, Nigeria will become a paradise for us all.
Let me go a bit personal. You just mentioned that you were just returning from a tour in the north. And around this period, we are hearing reports of a feud between the Kaduna State government and teachers in the Kaduna State. The state is saying that they put a test to these teachers and 22,000 of them failed. In your perspective, do you think that the government is right in what it is doing?
The first question is, how did those teachers get the job? Who gave them the job? What was the yardstick by which they were given the job? So the first indictment is to the government of Kaduna State itself. You should have a requirement. You want to be a teacher, there are requirement to go through interview. So you must qualify to go into the system. So, and then you also do promotional interviews to go to the next and the next and the next phase. So how come those people got into the system and a teacher could not pass a primary 4 examination? So to start with, it's an indictment on the government of Kaduna State, an indictment on the Ministry of Education in that state. And it should go beyond just saying that I'm sacking them. No, it should also go to the next level of prosecuting those who employed persons that are not qualified. We're talking about the future, the destiny of our children here. When I went to the north, like I said last week, at about 12 noon, you find pupils, they had closed from school. 12 noon. At the point I came down, I wanted to speak with some of them, they ran away. Like I was someone from Jupiter. And some of them, most of them, as a matter of fact, could not speak a word of English. In 21st century, they were being taught in Hausa. You know, so these are anomalies that must be corrected. But the question is, how did we get there? We must be able to identify how we got there, and then we eventually advance the solution to move forward.
There are legitimate concerns about the legality of the process with which the state government did sack the teachers. There are concerns that the tests were not part of the contract, and so the state government had no right to put them to test and then eventually sack them. You don't see reasons with this?
That's why I'm saying, what is the term of the contract? If you employ a set of people, what have you employed them to do? You employ them to do what? So maybe we should look at the terms of the contract first. Let Kaduna State government come out and say, these and these are the terms of contract for which these people were employed. Were they employed to sing for the children? We don't know. Were they employed to teach them in Hausa? Were they employed to teach them orthodoxly in English? Were they employed to teach them in Quranic education? So we must look at the terms of employment before we can make very definitive statements.
Lastly, with the over 2 years of this administration, how do you feel that they would win the 2019 presidential elections? If they contest, of course.
2019 is a year of a breakaway from the status quo. It's a year that Nigerians will come together like never before and vote on the basis of what is on the table and not on the basis of party affiliation. The APC, the PDP, the same set of people cross-carpeting, there isn't much of a difference between the two parties. Nigerians are wiser and they want a change. Go on the street, do interview, you see people are tired. They just want a change, and the NCP, represented by me as a presidential aspirant, is bringing about that change. There must be transparency. We can't be talking about APC in 2019. It's not going to work. Of course, anyone that flies that party in 2019 is going nowhere. And that's why we are offering Nigerians this platform. And beautifully, they're embracing it. In 2019, we are taking back our country and making it work again.
Thank you very much, sir, for joining us in the studio.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.